Culture Club Show 2025.
Happy 2025, Ben.
Happy 2025, Jeff. This is where we're both. Where this is like the new resolution show where neither of us is wearing a hat.
That's true. Actually, neither of us. For me, it's it's a coming of age. I'm turning 50 this year, Ben. So I figured.
So I am too.
So I've been thinking about, what are staples of mine that I can change.
Okay.
And everyone's like, go get LASIK, go get your eyes fixed, get rid of the glasses.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I've decided I'm gonna when I hang out with you, Ben, I'm not gonna wear a hat.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, having 8 weeks ago had my second hip replaced, I can tell you that making those big physiological changes can be very positive.
Merry Christmas on that one, Ben. How you feeling on it?
Merry Christmas to my hip replacement. I'm feeling great. Funny enough, I think I've mentioned this to you before, but I am going to start a podcast called Hip Replacement. That's all about speaking of being 50, like trying to keep in touch with the trends and personalities of youth. So more on that note coming in the near term.
That's amazing.
It'll be a sister to the club to the Culture Club Show.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Did you get any fun gifts during this holiday season? Buy yourself anything?
So many. I was so pleased to feel like I was sitting at the Venn diagram of men's style advice with this cardigan that I'm wearing. I'll stand up and show you. But
oh wow!
It's by Non-Native, which is a Japanese brand, and it has
Where'd you find it?
Has a two-way zipper. It's so it's V-neck cardigan, but in a big what's this chain link? What's this called? Cable knit. Cable knit. There we go. In a big cable knit pattern, and it's got a two-way zipper, and as opposed to button closure. And Jonah from Spy Plane said two-way zippers big for 2025, and GQ said chunky cardigans big for 2025 or whatever it is. So here you go. I'm sitting at the overlap of Blackbird, Spy Plane, and GQ, along with
actually what
millions of other people.
I have not read much men's wear this holiday, but I'm curious to know.
Well, you've got a direct plug. You can just ask Jian, and Jian will just tell you what's happening, so you don't have to.
But
you don't
have
to read anything
right now. He's in Japan right now. Actually, crazy enough, I was asking him about, if we can flip the script for a second, asking him about denim.
Okay.
Because every holiday I go through this. Like, I go through all my clothes. I'm like, you know what? I need another pair of jeans, which is the most.
You do not need another pair of jeans.
Nobody needs another pair of jeans. But I think, as we mentioned last week, Jian's wife is Janice is now over in Tokyo, and it looks like Jian's been over there for a couple of weeks with her, getting her settled, which is nice. And I actually reached out to him the other day and asked him to look for a pair of sugarcane denim, which is a pretty well-known, lauded Japanese denim brand. They've been around. They're one of the OGs from back in the day. And Jian's like, yo, have you looked at the new manual stuff yet? And it's funny because it is a name that I have seen because it did come across the blogs, but I didn't dig too much into it.
It's called the New Manual? I don't know it.
Yeah, so it's called New Manual. And what's interesting about it, it's so much great stuff going for it. So, for those that know vintage Levi's, vintage Japanese denim, Yutaka Fujiwara is one of the big heads over at Burbergen. It's a very well-known vintage dealer. Quite honestly, one of the more top-level players in the vintage denim world. So when you go in there, you can see an authentic, unworn, unwashed pair of 1947 Levi's from back in the day, as an example. And anyway, what's interesting is that he, of course, has been doing this for decades. He's written 2 books on the subject, one about Levi's and then Levi's trucker jackets specifically. And New Manual is actually a whole new project for him, where you would think that a guy that's so entrenched in vintage would try to put out a core piece. It's not that at all. It's like a full-on reinvention of how we thinking about modern cuts.
Interesting.
So as an example,
I'm looking at this Hypebeast link that you chatted me, and I mean, I guess I get it. It doesn't.
for those that are interested,
I don't know if I'm necessarily seeing the subtleties, and I thought I knew a lot about.
Yeah. So new-manual.com for anybody who wants to check it out. But for example, they've got this number 28. They number their garments, which is interesting. This is the LV66 Jian 1 washed, right? And what's interesting is that it's essentially, once you translate the page, Ben, you'll see that it's essentially built on the 1966 Levi's 501 model, but with major changes to make it more modern. And I think that's the thing that is so interesting about what Mr. Fujiwara is doing with New Manual, is that we're getting like a new take on cuts, which is not necessarily something that you usually get out of the guys that are into core 501 fits.
Yeah, because they're focused on reproduction, not on reinterpretation.
Right. And you can go on to new-manual.com. I think a few other places carry them. I was able to. Looks like the Armory actually has at least one of their.
Well, I mean, this link is saying that they're doing something with Kith, so.
Right. Yeah. And also they did a pair of, I think if I'm reading this correctly, the Armory has also done a pair of jeans with them in like an equal beige, which is dope. I just noticed that, which is super cool. Anyway, it's a denim line to pay attention to. Again, what I find interesting is that usually when you look at the Japanese creatives that are coming out with denim today, they are trying to be one-to-one fits of what the classics were, and that's not what we're seeing here, which is dope. I think there's a Junior collab coming too, if Jian filled me in correct.
Well, I mean, I'm sure he did. He tends to have his information right. Well, that's cool. Okay, so you're getting new jeans. I'm breaking out the old ones. I'm still resurrecting old pairs of Duffers that I bought in 1999, 2000.
Duffer St. George. But out of curiosity, where were you buying that stuff back then?
The first pair I bought was I bought 3 pairs of them over the course of time. So Duffer St. George, for those who don't know, sort of like the British answer to Stussy, if you will, I think is a good way to put it. English answer to Stussy, like, but with more formal English menswear codes written into it, like proper collared shirts and cashmere sweaters and shit like that. But they were big in the late 90s, and they were carried in New York exclusively originally at Union.
No kidding.
So I bought the first pair of jeans I bought at Union, which I still have and still wear frequently and are in great shape, and have had repaired by my buddy Sean Joswick a couple of times. So they're special. I'm going to hang on to those forever. But I also bought another pair from Barney's, and then I got another pair from Louis Boston.
Wow,
Louis Boston, whatever that store was called.
Did you ever go to Louis Boston?
Yeah. So I went when I was working in the music business. My first job out of college, I went up to Boston to see some shows, like to cover some shows from bands that I was working with, and I would go to Louis or Louis, whatever it was called.
What a great store!
From time, it was great. It was like the Barney's version of Boston, or Boston
really well
clientele
too. I mean, they had plenty of staff to help you there, which I thought was great.
Oh, interesting.
But man, look.
I got 3 pairs of them over the course of time. I gave one or sold one. I donated one, and then Joswick actually gave me a pair of his. So I still have 3 pairs, 2 of which are OG, like straight cut giant ones, and then one pair is a pair that I had altered, which is the one that I wear.
Yeah, that's
all the
awesome. I think one of the other trends I think we may be seeing, and I think a lot of the crew that we read is into it. I'm telling you, vintage and reuse is bigger than ever. I think where I don't know if we're going to see a backlash on Temu or Shein, because now we see Amazon launching their own version of shopping.
We'll also see like what the Trump administration does with these tariffs, and whether that has any, and whether they close the loophole on the $800 or under direct shipping, no tax.
Tell me more about that then.
Well, I am not an expert, and I'm not a buyer of bulk goods from China in particular, but as I understand it, there is a rule currently in U.S. trade regulation where if you order something directly from overseas, and from China in particular, that has a retail value of less than $800, there's no duty paid on it. Essentially, the manufacturer doesn't pay a duty on it, and the importer doesn't pay a duty on it.
Interesting.
Which is the way that all of these brands have come to be so big, is because they can sell cheap items with no tax or tariff on them. And so we'll see if Trump does in fact put a bunch of tariffs in on China, whether those businesses are affected or such. Because I just feel like the backlash from Jian or Temu or whatever is not going to come because of the quality of the products, which is garbage. It's going to come where you have to pay more money for that garbage, and people will start to say, well, this isn't. It's not worth the convenience. It's not worth the dopamine hit of the purchase.
Right. Which is the dopamine hit. I think you nailed, pretty well. That you look at, these kids calling things hauls and loads. By the way, we did it too whenever we went to a sample sale, but it just feels like Temu and Jian is a sample sale all day in that sense.
Yeah, for sure.
The fact that they're actually probably manufacturing those things as they come. But yeah, I'm still very long on reuse, resale. Myself, Ben, I just picked up a pair of
Dead Men's Oxfords.
Dead Men's Oxfords, right? Not just on top of that, but I'm also now buying Dead Men's Doc Martens, which I'm very proud of.
Yeah, and we talked about that last time actually too.
Right.
Yeah, I went over the Noah sample sale, and they didn't have the Solvaires that I wanted in my size, unfortunately. So I didn't get any.
So what will get interesting is like, how do you convince a consumer today, who's at least in the United States, who's already struggling with, issues with food pricing, which is 100% an issue. Like I didn't even pay attention myself until,
So you had to eat.
Well, I mean, Erwan's setting the bar high for everyone, so everything seems cheap, bro. But
this is a rarefied life that you lead, Jeff. Jesus Christ.
No, but my point being is that there are people out there.
Come over to Wegmans with the rest of us.
How do you? It's very difficult to convince somebody to spend $30 on a t-shirt versus $10 on a t-shirt, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's to them, it's a wear-all that gets used and reused. We don't have that concept really of things staying with us long, except for maybe jewelry, which gets passed down through families and art. But this shit's perishable. This stuff is like it's meant to break down in some sense, but we just allow it to break down too fast.
I suppose. I don't know. I mean, I think the planned obsolescence that you're describing to me occurs to me less than just the notion of growth goals and the idea that in order to be healthy or to be valid, a business has to sell more, has to grow, has to do more every year over year, and which I mean, A, doesn't feel sustainable in the grand scheme of things. B, leads us into all of these scale traps like Temu and Jian, and then C, just like takes away the ultimate meaning and utility of the things that we have, right? Like, yeah, I don't know.
You are a considered shopper, right? I would argue that you and I, and likely everyone here that's listening, is considered in some regard. I don't know. Maybe you don't for some items.
Well, I just think. I guess what I guess I'm getting at, and this I want to pivot the subject a little bit because to bring up something else that we talked about a second ago. But I think what you are intuiting is the need for, what you're asking for is the need for a change in the fundamental value proposition of what we buy, right? Do we buy things because they are cheap and available? Do we buy things because they are highly utile and long lasting? Do we buy things because they are a great value in combination of those things? Or do we buy things because they, combine physical good and, emotional experience, etc.? And it seems to me like the next step has more to do with combination of value propositions than it does towards more stuff, or alternately trying to convince people who are used to buying at low price points to buy at high price points, because that doesn't feel like it's a leap that you're going to make
last year.
You're
right?
going to make either, right? Exactly. So
I think it's one of the reasons. Sorry to interrupt. I think it's one of the reasons why so many, unfortunately, apparel companies are backing down, as we've talked about, from looking for sensible or sustainable options or responsible options, which is quite a bummer, because I think the consumer still wants it, certainly. But then you look at Temu and Shane and you're like, wow, do they really? Because man, they're really into this, they're really into this haul. In the same way that
it's price. It's
right.
It's 100% price. And it's 100% price and it's 100%, brand incentive, business incentive, right? Which is to grow and to be, more healthy, more successful, more sustainable as a business, not as a participant in the worldwide dialogue. But
right.
the combination of value propositions I want to talk about was actually something. So my brother got me as a birthday gift, which is very nice of him, the triple A24 membership, right? Which is the A24, the film studio, maker of currently Queer, Baby Girl, Heretic, a couple of others. They've had a very busy season. But this membership thing, which was $5 a month, and where you get a bunch of special zines. I'm holding one up here to the camera for those of you watching. But this is from the film Heretic, the Hugh Grant sort of horror thriller. But so for $5 a month, you get some kind of print collateral, you get discounts on merch that A24 makes, and then they recently changed it so that you now, as a monthly member, get a free ticket to every one of their movies on opening weekend. Yeah, and so it's from a consumer value proposition, it's really good. I think I got in on the founding tier because I was there before, so my rate hasn't changed. It's still $5 a month, which is an amazing deal. But even now, I think that it's a $10 a month thing, and I think I got 3 free, or I was eligible to get 3 free movie tickets in December. So it's like you pay for the quarter just with that 1 month, right? If I had used those tickets. But you also get this print collateral, you also get interesting discounts and so on and so forth. And all of that, A24 is bulking up its opening weekend numbers with these tickets that are being bought, right? They're like promo tickets that you buy for a concert, right? Somebody's still paying for them. Right. So it still goes to the gross. They are deepening their fan engagement with the community. They're providing the members a sense of real, actual, like, monetary value, not just I'm buying into the club for the sake of buying into it. And they're probably harvesting a bunch of data that then allows them to say, all right, Ben took these tickets, didn't take these tickets, took this offer, didn't take these offers, therefore we can target our future offerings towards him.
Ben, is that specifically for like New York theater?
No, national. It was done, if I'm not mistaken, with the AMC and Regal chains.
That's cool.
And so it has to be in a place where, and in fact, one of the reasons that I couldn't act on one of the tickets was because we were upstate and there aren't any theaters in those chains around.
That's cool. I mean, that's a hell of a membership if you think about it. And you're right, the value prop, especially for a guy like you, makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But I think what we were gonna end up finding is lots of different brands experimenting with those sorts of membership type communities, and then also platforms where membership is made easier by virtue of the platform services. So Substack is a good example of this. It's like you become a brand publishing on Substack, you sell memberships there, you can offer your paid members particular benefits, which then could include like a free gift every month, right, or whatever the case is. Emily Sundberg had posed a funny hypothetical today in Feed Me, which was, where else are we going to see brands joining OnlyFans? Which,
I mean, shout out to Cameo as well. They were there early too. I just think that the delivery was different for them, right?
But and we talked about this last time too, though, as with Clubhouse, it was like there was not enough consideration into what that ecosystem looked like in total before they dove into one element of it, and so it then got really weighted to that one side,
right.
And then
You're absolutely right, Ben. That's right.
Got top heavy.
The OnlyFans model is the model, quite frankly, that many people, including myself, have always wanted. This idea that we don't necessarily need to be reliant simply on.
Is this what the no hat thing is about, Jeff? You're sort of stripping down.
I wish it could be somebody else, but OnlyFans. But the problem is, it's not even a problem. I mean, let's be honest. Like, when you think about pushing innovation, the adult entertainment industry, with the exception of maybe free videos on the internet. They're pushing models that make sense. The question is, how do you get people to pay for various types of content? Substack to me is easy. Clearly, OnlyFans is easy. I mean, that's a whole other story. But when you look at publishers that want to get involved in this too, more than ever, they're kind of looking to front load a lot of what they're doing. This is not that different, I think. And maybe you got to give a shout out to Jay-Z and Samsung back in the day for, preloading cell phones.
Sure.
I think even U2 with the iTunes fiasco, where they were essentially, they dead dropped 2 million copies of U2's album and immediately made it go double platinum.
Right.
And again, you need to be able to capture the awards, right? The accolades from the audience. Still need to make money. And also comes to mind is the music industry as a whole is finally out of a hole that they were in back in the early 2000s when we started to see this drop.
Sort of. I mean, I think it's funny actually.
Maybe not musicians, but certainly the big co's.
Yeah, well, I think though that it's interesting, right? And Darren Hemmings, who writes a really great newsletter called Network Notes, is a UK marketing consultant, and yeah, it's Network Notes, like definitely worth following. Very, very UK centric, and so a microcosm of the global world market, or the global music market, but nonetheless, like very insightful. Anyway, of the things
is he on Substack?
I think so. Yeah, it may not be on Substack. It may be on some other self-powered platform or Beehive or whatever.
Yeah, because his I only get a Gmail on his.
Yeah.
Oh wow, he hasn't touched his Gmail.
we can.
Sorry.
I'll send it to you. We can throw it in the show notes. In any case, Darren ended the year 2024 with a bunch of recaps and forecasts about the state of the music business, and it did not sound particularly good for even the companies, because you've had so much investment from, private equity like KKR into catalogs that hasn't necessarily panned out. You've had the acquisition of a bunch of indies like Pias and Downtown Publishing by Universal. So the continued consolidation into these like oligarchic big three, and then, of course, the fact that from a musician standpoint, royalty payments are famously, underfed or underfeeding, as well as all of the algorithmic pollution of the music environments. Like I can no longer ask my Google to play my Discover Weekly, because it now puts on a song called My Discover Weekly by some troll who made some shitty acoustic ditty called My Discover Weekly. It's really kind of aggravating, actually, because it's like, I don't want to hear that song again. And Google should know that. Google should be smart enough to know that at this point, but isn't. I mean, but that's a whole AI discussion. Anyway, Rant over.
Yeah. On that note, though, I will say this. We're going to get to a place, I think. Well, Spotify's already figured out because we actually listen. But when it comes to photos or visuals, I think we go through them much quicker. But as an example, one of the cooler things I found in prepping for my my coming school year with my students is really trying to develop images and using tools like Midjourney for concepting.
Okay.
And one of the great things about Midjourney is, in the past, you had to use it through Discord, but today there is a web front end that you can use, and you can actually build these personas of yourself, and you can train it. So as an example, I wanted to build a persona that would output, or sorry, not a persona, but a personalization that would output only fashion style runway realistic images. And I essentially trained Midjourney on this by only clicking on images that related to it. And it's done such a fantastic job now of understanding like a style that I'm looking for, or like, you know what I mean? So as a creative tool, for me, I'm not an artist in the sense that I'm building collages or doing illustrative work. And so it really does help in that sense. And I think we're going to get to a place with AI, maybe with music. I think they already know us in music, but with other things where we literally just got to sit in front of it a couple times a day, just train it. And the next thing you know, it's actually working for us well.
Well, yeah, but working for you in what way? Like, I guess my worry about that is that it's working to supply you with this like unceasing carousel of cool stuff that you can sort of drink in and never deviate from? Or
no, not like that.
Okay, what do you mean?
It's a concept tool, right? So
okay,
what would it look like? I don't know. What would it look like to imagine a model wearing a garment that had the likeness of, and they say Miyake? You actually give it the inputs into it, and it actually gives pretty decent outputs. Am I that person that's like memeing this or using it? No. But from a tool of trying to understand or conceptualize, I think it's very helpful.
Right, sure. And you want to be able to say to your students too, like, okay, guys, these are some of the shortcuts and these are some of the pitfalls to
it's also showing them how to do it right. It's sorry, not how to do it right. Apologies. They're going to use it anyways.
Right.
So
sure.
You might as well. Here's how I want you to use it. This is how I would use it to enhance what you're doing, as an example.
I gotcha.
Because when it comes out of, I'll be really honest, dude. I've had plenty of students that have had to have that are failed off because they literally leave the chat GTP prompt in a response, dude. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
Oh yeah.
That shit does happen.
We over on Boxing Day, we got together with my cousin, who is a high school teacher in Virginia, and she was saying that it was the same. It's because she was having a conversation with my daughter, who's a sophomore, and my son, who's a freshman in college, about the use of AI prompts and so on, and just the inevitability of it. And she was basically like, yeah, look, it's incredibly obvious the people that use the stuff and the people that don't, and so it's more just a question of like, this is a tool for everybody, so how do we use it better? I don't know. We're not saying anything new here. One thing though that I do think is sorry, and I want to digress again for a second.
Sure.
One thing that I think is will be interesting is to the extent to which and you see it in Perplexity now, citing the original sources, the extent to which many of these algorithmically driven and AI companies start to go back to the originators of a particular style or image or whatever. You mentioned Issey Miyake a minute ago, like, and start to go, we want to tap into your human creativity as an authenticator and a validator of what we're doing. And so you develop, in other words, the Cheryl Dunn version of a photograph of the Issey Miyake model that you just talked about, right? So, and I bring this up partially because I happened to see Cheryl, friend of the show, at a holiday market in December, and she was selling some old prints that she had dug out of like deep storage, and I ended up buying a print, which I'll show you. But it's like
nice.
It's an assemblage of 5 photos or 6 photos done in half frame at a boxing match. And the thing that I loved about it was that she was shooting through the ring girl's legs as she walked around holding the ring cards. And so she's shooting boxers in their corner, resting in between rounds while the ring girl walks around. I said, I was just like, yeah, I mean, the legs and the shoes really make this one for me. And she said, oh, it's interesting. I just shot the production stills for Benny Safdie's new film with The Rock, which is about a boxer. But essentially, like, Benny and The Rock had been using her photos from 20 years ago as reference for some of the cinematography.
No shit.
And they said, as opposed to just saying, let's just recreate this on a mood board or whatever, they said, let's bring Cheryl down and have her actually she didn't shoot the film, but she shot the production stills.
Very
so they've
cool.
now shown they've now shown up on Instagram, and apparently she's getting DMs from The Rock, which is pretty cool too. So
wow, that's cool.
Shout out to Cheryl. But in any case, like what it made me think was we are heading to a zone where these tools become so widely proliferated that there is going to need to be a way to distinguish between the inputs, and that an A24 inviting Cheryl is sort of indicative of what might become some of these trends. So I think it'll be interesting to see in the coming year what happens there.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I'll pull out some. There's actually a couple artists that I know that are working on some interesting Polaroid projects that are based on AI outputs that we can talk about next week.
Interesting. So okay, so it's like generate an AI image and then photograph it.
Let me grab it. Hold on a second.
That's cool. I like. See. That's interesting to me. It's like taking algorithmically generated imagery and then
an artist out of Miami,
doing rephotography with it. Yeah. Sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
Sorry. There's a fine artist down here by the name of Daniel Alan Cohen that I've become close with. He's actually come through Breakfast Club and has been an OG, which is great. And he actually gave me this as a gift. This is not his main work, but it's almost like what he's done is he's built these called pixel Polaroid packs. And inside of them you don't actually know. It's like a trading card pack, basically.
Okay.
And they all have different themes. And I think this one's a Turtles theme, if I'm not mistaken. And if you look at
what kind of turtles?
I'll show you in a second. But if you look at the top here, you'll see this sort of a rarity listing, if you can see.
Okay.
And that's what's in my pack. So as an example.
So for those of you who are not watching, Jeff is showing me an envelope that has
like a film development envelope.
Film development envelope, because you would have picked up at a Rite Aid or a Dwayne Reed or something like that in years past. And
these are, so I think he's printing on Polaroid, but this one's specifically around Ninja Turtles and Charizards in Pokemon. So this is sort of, so this is a AI generated image that he came through prompt.
Okay.
And he's printed these out and kind of made them into cards. So what's interesting is like, here's a Ninja Turtle output.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So
some are rarer than others, as an example.
That's fascinating. So did he, and are those are not photographs. They're just printed in the Polaroid.
That's right. These are, by the way, and the image is not a photograph either. That's an AI generated image that you're looking at.
Got it. So I thought maybe he was in the tradition of Richard Prince and the pictures gallery artists or the picture show like rephotographing things, but no, he's not. He's generating on photo paper and in the photographic paradigm.
They're pretty cute. They're great.
That's cool.
They're fun. My kids love them. But I think this is, and again, it is an output of generation that we're getting here, but maybe this artist, as an example, what I'm pretty sure is like, maybe that Pikachu, which I think is a rare, if I'm not mistaken, the Pikachu is a rare, even though it is an AI generated image. He's only created one, he's only created a handful of the actual piece of art, if that makes sense.
Got it.
And then you got to think about it. The likelihood. Well, I'll stop there. I think it's cool.
Hit the half hour. All right. Well, we'll pick that one back up. It might be fun. It might be fun. We in 2025 we should maybe start inviting guests on to just give us
for sure, dude.
30 seconds of dialogue there. So maybe we invite Daniel on to talk about that.
We absolutely should. He's also, like I mentioned, he's a Breakfast Club guy. Also, the other thing that would be fantastic is the more that we can turn our users on to new artists. There's so many great artists out there. I think that's going to be one of my resolutions to. So
will you hand me that book that's on top of the thing? Nope, the other one to the right. So speaking of that, Jeff, I'm going to just turn you on to one, not a new artist at all, but discovery from this holiday period. Charles Sheeler.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the pioneers, as I have come to learn over the last 2 weeks, of sort of photographic experimentalism transposed into painting images. So basically, he was one of the first people or first major artists to do photographs of, let's call it, industrial settings, which he then took and painted as large-scale paintings.
Cool.
And his work is really awesome, and I was struck by its similarity to a painter out of, I believe, Austria called Alexandra Barth, who I really like. So those are my two recommendations on artists right now. Go look up Charles Sheeler, Sheeler, and then look up Alexandra Barth, Barth.
Ben, another fine half hour with you. Start of the year, which is a good one.
Likewise, Jeff. I think so too. Cool. Well, listen, everybody, do the whole subscribe and like and share boogie, please. It helps. And we will see you again next week for another edition of Culture Club Show, half hour.
Happy 2025, Ben. See y'all.
Happy New Year. All right, Jeff.